we learning Parsha Vayishlach, and he sent. And the name of the Parsha is very clear, straight from the beginning. So Yaakov returns to the Holy Land. After 20 years he spent in Haran with Laban, and he sends angels, emissaries, to his brother Esau, hoping for a reconciliation, so that there will be no animosity between the two of them. But his angel messenger is returning back with very bad news, that his brother Esau is marching towards him with 400 men, 400 fully armed to their teeth terrorists on a warpath. He wants to kill him. Yaakov starts preparations for war, prepares for war, prays, and sends Esau a large gift consisting of hundreds of heads of livestock and some precious stone and some gold and you name it, but very, very, very big present. And the idea is simply to appease him. The night before the meeting or the forthcoming battle, as Yaakov thinks, he ferries his family and possessions across the Jabbok River. It's a small stream, Jabbok River. He, however, remains behind because he wanted to retrieve, he left some jars behind, and when he goes there, he encounters an angel with whom he wrestles until the morning, until the daybreak. During the wrestle, he suffers a dislocated hip, but he forces this supernal creature to bless him. And the creature tells him that his name will change. He will have an additional name, Israel, which means he who prevails over divine and human. Yaakov and Esau meet the next day, and none of the fears which Jacob had eventuated into reality. They embrace and kiss, and after they had their reunion, they part their ways. They go their own way. Esau returns to Seir, and Jacob goes towards the promised land. On the way, Yaakov purchases a plot of land in a town called Shechem, whose crown prince falls in love with Dinah, Yaakov's daughter, and he basically abducts and rapes her. Dinah's brothers, Shimon and Levi, avenge the deed by killing all male inhabitants of the city. What they initially convinced them to do is to do circumcision, because Shechem wanted to marry Dinah, and when on the third day they were in the most terrible pain after the circumcision, these two got their swords and went and killed every male in the city. Jacob wasn't happy with that deed, for sure. Jacob journeys further, and on the way Rachel goes into labor and giving birth to her second son Benjamin. Unfortunately, she dies during the birth, and she is buried in a roadside grave near Bethlehem. Then what happens, we learn in the Parsha that Reuben, the first son, the eldest son of Yaakov or Jacob, loses his birthright because he interferes with his father's marital life. And Yaakov eventually arrives in Hebron to his father, Isaac, who later dies at the age of 180. And Rivka has passed away before Yaakov's arrival. Our parsha concludes with detailed account of Esau's wives, children, and grandchildren, the family histories of the people of Seir, among whom Esau has settled, and the list of 8 kings who ruled Edom, the land of Esau's and Seir's descendants. These 8 kings were preceding the kings of Judea. And that's the whole parsha. That's the content. As we know, Torah is not a book like a love story to read. It's not a reading book. It's a guide for life, or a book to live by. As late Rabbi Sachs used to say, life is not an easy picnic, and unpleasant surprises or crises can take place anytime. We can lose our job or our savings, sickness can strike anytime, or family members' problems with wives, children, or loss of self-respect by anybody. We can find ourselves dejected, sometimes subject to brutal criticism, sometimes public, which is very, very unpleasant. These are the terrifying moments in life, when life looks like total loss and basically life is drained of meaning. It loses its meaning. These are the times when our Torah for fathers can be very helpful. Just looking at them as an example of what they did. One of the most important aspects of Torah, that all our heroes and heroines in Torah are portrayed as humans. They are not superheroes. They are not Superman or Spider-Man or anything like this. They too fail sometimes and have fears and have doubts. Jacob is a prime example of that. Jacob or Yaakov is very, very afraid right now of Esau. And Esau approaches him with these 400 armed terrorists, as I said earlier. And in preparation for expected attack, he conducts the following actions. First, diplomacy. He sends these lavish gifts to his brother. Then he splits the camp into 2 as operational preparation for war, making sure that his wives and children are with him in a smaller camp, and the bigger camp with cattle and all the animals and all the people, all the servants, they are the bigger camp. So if one camp is attacked, the other camp can survive and run away. That's the strategy. And last but not least, he prays to God. Why? We know God has promised him that he will look after him when he was even on the way to Haran. Yes, but he is not sure about his current balance with God. And that is an ongoing problem for all of us. We are never sure where do we stand with God. It looks like he has done everything he possibly could to protect his family and people and his life. And now, in the darkness of the night, when he went to pick up those little jars, somewhere near Jabbok River, an unknown enemy suddenly jumps at him and forces him to fight. It's like an immediate total crisis. We do not know really who this stranger was, whether it was an angel of Esau or angel of death or just a man, or maybe God himself, as Yaakov or Jacob was thinking. However, what we do know is that the wrestling match was an external or physical manifestation, projection of Jacob's internal conflict, the result of his fears and his distress. So in a way, Rabbi Sachs says, Jacob was wrestling with himself, with the whole past history of his relationships with Esau, his fears and his frustrations and maybe jealousies, whatever the emotions were. So if we can win the struggle in here, inside us, we can win the struggle outside, in the physical world, out there. If we cannot win the struggle inside us, with ourselves, we will eventually lose our struggle in the external, in the physical world. And to prove that, I'll tell you a little story. The late Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who was a prisoner in Auschwitz, he saw how difficult it is for people to sustain their will to live there in the concentration camp, for obvious reasons. Those who lost the will to live died there. He made it his personal mission to give people back the reason to live, the will to live. And what he was doing, he would talk to the person to discover his or her dreams or tasks to be complete. And then once he discovered that, he would be able to reason with them and give them hope, a reason to survive. After World War II, based on all of these experiences in the concentration camp, he founded this new school of psychotherapy. He called it the logotherapy, based on logotherapy means basically man's search for meaning. Crisis can change us at the deepest level of the self, of our psyche, threatening our self-confidence, our self-respect. And this is where Torah can really help. We are here in this physical world because Creator wanted us to be. We didn't choose our parents, we didn't choose our souls, we didn't choose our bodies. He organized all of this. He chose our parents, He put our souls in our bodies and sent us to this world. He loves and forgives us. He forgives our mistakes after we acknowledge them in prayer. He believes in us more than we sometimes believe in ourselves. This is where the true self-confidence is born. What a man can do to me when the Lord is with me. That's what my grandfather used to say. And he, by the way, was an Epicurus. Jacob won the fight with the angel by forcing the angel to bless him. And in the process, he conquered his own fears. The next day, when Jacob's family came face to face with Esau and his army, instead of attacking him, Esau ran towards him to meet him and to embrace him. So everything Jacob has feared failed to happen. None of this happened. Was this a mere coincidence? Or Jacob's fears were simply baseless, unfounded? No. The Torah is teaching us a much deeper truth. Once Jacob has resolved the conflict within himself the previous night, he removed the source of tension between him and Esau. He was empowered, and Esau felt that power. More than that, Jacob has conquered his own ego and had no hesitation whatsoever even in prostrating himself in front of Esau, and in the process removing his anger, at least for the time being. Some people disagree with that idea, but I think it's correct. Jacob taught us in this parsha that we cannot preempt crisis or minimize it, but we can survive it, we can react to it. And this is how we Jews do it for the last 3,500 years. we always manage our crisis and we always survive it with Hashem's help. Shabbat Shalom.
למען החי ורעי, למען החי ורעי, אתה בנה, שלום לך, למען החי ורעי, למען